Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. This is Coach Oliver once again. Today we will discuss the game between Wesley So against Sevian in the American Cup 2022. This is a new event in the US chess calendar. There are 8 players, so 4 matches. The matches are according to the rating in classical rating. So here, number 1 Aronian is playing number 8 Ray Robson. Number 2 Caruana playing Jeffrey Chong. Wesley, number 3, is playing Sam Sevian. And the last match is between Sam Shankland and Linear Dominguez. Quite interesting is that quite interesting fact is that Nakamura is not playing in this tournament. All right, Sam upsets Wesley in their match. Although it's not at the end of the road for Wesley, this a different kind of event. You lose the match, you will go down to the elimination bracket. So the winner stays at the champions bracket, playing classical games. If you lose the match, you will be playing rapid matches in the elimination bracket. So Wesley can still climb back here and hopefully win the tournament. But the first round against Sam was just bad for Wesley. Okay, let's check it out. Wesley was white. He went for d4. Sam went for knight f6. c4 for Wesley. e6. Knight c3, bishop e4. Okay, we have again this name Zo Indian. It's a bit popular now, considering this game by Aronian against Estefenko in the Grand Prix. So e3 castles, bishop d3, d5, takes. And here Wesley went for a3. In the Aronian game, queen c2 was played here. And then we have b6. The knight, okay, the bishop was on d2. We have rook to e8. We have here a3, and the bishop went back to f8. Knight on f3, we have bishop to b7, and then knight g5. Then g6. Then we have h4. Okay, in this game, Wesley went for a3 straight away. Bishop d6 back. Black could also consider capturing the knight. Takes on c3, takes, and we go for c5, knight e2. Very famous game here between Budvinik against Capablanca. Yeah. So knight c6. This knight will go to g3 with f3 and castles. Yeah. Okay, so f3 here, rook to e8, castles. This will be normal. Yeah. Okay, so Sam went back to d6. He keeps his 2 bishops here. Queen c2, c6. Well, according to Wesley, this is part of his preparation actually in the FIDE Grand Prix. Okay, so knight ge2, rook to e8. The main point of knight ge2 is to clear this square for the pawn on f3 and avoid the pin with bishop g4. Bishop d2, showing his intention to also queenside here and go for an attack on the king. Knight bd7, f3. Again, this is the Budvinik system in the Nimzo Indian, this f3, this structure with knight e2. c5, an important central break here. h4, part of Wesley's preparation. h5, wow, okay, this is an idea in the Najdorf or also in the Karo Kantar Tafower. this h5 to stop this pawn from going to h5 and h6. Right, interesting h5 by black, castle queenside, but white can actually use this pawn, right, to g4, undermining that pawn on h5 later on. We'll see what happens. a6, so black is also going for b5 here, and b4, use of this pawn on a3. g4, who goes first? Okay. Takes, knight takes. White sacrifices the pawn to open up the king. h5, of course. Wesley doesn't like the idea of taking the pawn on d5. He was worried about knight f2. If, for example, you go for bishop h7 here, king h8, let's just say queen f5 and queen h5. It looks dangerous here. Knight takes h1, queen h5. But there's brilliant defense here by black with knight f6. If you take on f6, queen takes f6. It seemed like there's going to be a mate with bishop d3, but there's queen h6. If you go queen f3, for example, now bishop g4. And that is actually winning for black with this move here. If you capture this one, then the knight just goes back to f2. Of course, you don't take this knight on h1. It will just be c4. You capture this one, and you have rook a8 up in the king. So that knight takes d5 idea will not work. Wesley probably thought of that one. Okay, he went for h5. Knight f8. Rook dg1, maybe not the best rook. Better was, I guess, rook hg1. Okay, black would probably go for b5 here. And now rook g2, we have b4. Knight takes d5, takes on a3. This is a bit complicated. a2. And now we have queen a4, protecting a1. Takes on c5. And then queen takes a2. Yeah. Bishop goes e6 probably here, and then knight f4. Okay, with chances for both sides. And also Wesley has this, he could go for h6 here, by the way. Okay, for example, if black takes on h6, then he goes through dg1. Yeah. Okay, the main point is that if the king goes away from the pin, okay, let's say king h8, now Wesley has e4 with a strong attack. And if black does not capture the pawn, for example, let's say after h6, he goes for g6, then there's d takes e5, right? Or even knight takes b5 here, for example. Knight takes b5. I'm not sure what black will do here. Okay, let's say he plays bishop to e6, then knight f4. Should be better for Wesley here. Okay, because if you, let's say you go for knight f2, we have h7, king goes to h8, and then bishop c3. Look at that. c5, there's takes on c5. Okay, this rook dg1 probably was Wesley's. I'm not sure. It's not decisive yet because there's still an interesting part in the end of the game. The first mistake. Okay, wrong rook. Knight f2, d takes c5. Wesley could still play h6 here. Yeah. He should go for h6 here. Because if, let's say, you go knight takes h1, of course, this bishop h7 here. Knight takes on h7, for example. We have rook takes g7. You go king f8 and queen takes h7. Mate should be coming up. If you defend with bishop e6, okay, we have e4. Reminiscent of, again, this Aronian versus the Stepenko game. And also lately Pragnananda against Cornet in tournament in Europe. Oh no, in Reykjavik, where Pragnananda won. Okay, so d takes e5, bishop e5. Now the bishop comes into the game, protecting g7. That's why d takes e5 was wrong. Yeah. Wesley probably thought about taking with c5 here, and he goes for h6. Yes. he shouldn't have released the tension on that square with d5 and c4 square, d5, the d4 and the c5 square. Takes e5 allows the bishop to protect g7, h6, g6. Now the bishop comes into this dark square here. King is a little safe now. h7, rook king h8, rook h6, step in the wrong direction here. Bishop goes to g7, rook h2, now it goes to g4, rook h3, protecting e3, because now it's attacking it with a rook as well. Knight into e5, rook hg3, now knight into e6, threatening knight takes e5, pressure on g3. This pawn becomes a shield, the white pawn becomes the black's shield. Knight f4 takes, knight takes d3, queen takes d3, and now d4. Knight into e4, centralized queen on d5, threat on e4. Knight into g5, queen takes e5 check. Wesley cannot go king b1 here, right? King b1 runs into bishop f5, loses. There's no mate with knight takes f7, and just king takes a7 right here. If you go rook to h1, king goes back to g8. So king d1, queen d5, queen f3, queen a2. But black thought that he's already winning with the queen b1 idea right here. But Wesley found knight takes f7. Strong move. Takes, rook takes g6. d3. And Wesley went for bishop e3. He gave up, yeah. But chess is such a beautiful game, and being a competitive game, also being a competitive sport, you should not give up. Yeah? Try to find something. And here, queen takes d3 was actually good for white. Yeah. Or maybe a draw if there's a perfect defense for black. It's actually black was striving for the draw here. Because now if bishop f5, the amazing rook takes, Wesley stopped his analysis probably of the queen h5 versus losing queen d3. But amazingly, king c1, he missed this move, rook c7. How to find that move though? But he could have at least tried, yeah. Anyway, you were in a losing position. If you look at this position, yeah, it looks hopeless after d3. So either way, you're in your mind, you're gonna lose. But why not? Okay, since I'm losing anyway, I will just go for it. Yeah, I will just go for it because bishop e3 is just throwing in the towel. So look at this: queen to b3, king e1, d2, king f1 into d1. Yeah, this is game over. But since you feel like losing anyway, why not go for it? Yeah. Amazing chess. Chess is just a beautiful game, and this move, rook c7, threatening bishop c3, and with this rook c7, I think black will sweat it out. Yeah. How to defend? Okay, the only way to defend maybe is rook e7. We go bishop c3 check. King takes h7, rook takes h7 check. King goes to h6, bishop g7 check. King h7. Now we can put maybe f5. Yeah. And we'll see what happens. If you go rook c8 check, bishop c3, the main point of f5, I'll show you. King h6, rook e6 check. King a7, we have rook g7. King h8, the other rook goes to 7. King g8, now rook takes c8 check. This f5 pawn protects the rook in e6. King f7, now you cannot take the rook. You go king f8, there's bishop e4. King goes here, we have rook g6 because of the pawn. King goes to h8, bishop c3 is mate. Yeah. It would have been an amazing turnaround. Wesley missed it, but it happens. It's part of the game. You make mistakes. Sometimes our mind is not willing to really go for it. Yeah. Sometimes in a hopeless situation, we feel like, okay, better luck next time. But then again, the moral lesson here is never ever give up. Yeah. Try. All right. That was the critical moment here with D3. This position D3. Oops. And the best move was Rook C7. It could have been a different result, and Wesley could have stayed in the champions bracket here. Okay, but it's not over yet for Wesley. And in the second game, his choice of in the second game, Wesley's choice of playing this line in the QGD with this double pawn on F6 and F7. With the match situation, there are many ways to play, but not this line, because this is a long-term weakness. There's double pawn on F7 and F6. White will just play the positional squeeze and down. Carlsen won against Kramnik beautifully with this kind of setup. In IGE2, it was draw in the end, but if you look at the final position here, White could still play on, by the way, with takes, and some king to E2, F3, or maybe Rook H5 first. You go King G6 and then Rook E5, White could have still played on, but he won the first game with this one. So it was enough for Sam Sevian in his match against Wesley. So he's going on with the second match, waiting for Caruana against Jeffrey Chong in the playoffs. They're playing the playoffs with 2 draws. And also with this win, we have to congratulate Sam Sevian for finally crossing the 2,700 milestone for the first time. So it's actually 2,700.4 in his live rating. All right, that's about it. Wesley So lost this one, but he'll try to bounce back in the playoffs. In the elimination bracket. Other games or other matches are going into the playoff, so we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting our channel, Charge Smash Chess and Charge Smash Entertainment on Facebook and YouTube. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe, everyone.